Okay, we're here. Going to be on Exodus 22 tonight. And like we said last week, the title is More Laws to Direct Judges. So last week they kind of put a few more emphasis or clarification on some of the laws that they had. The first 10 that Moses got. And you don't have to clarify. God didn't have to clarify himself. But in order to make, before it was Moses and God talking about problems that come up. Now, with Jethro throwing in his 2 cents about you need to have rulers or judges over tens, hundreds, thousands to help Moses lead these people. So God gave them some additional clarification, and this is what Moses wrote down from it, from Exodus 21, 22, and 23. So we'll be on it again next week too. So, verse 1 in Exodus 22, it kind of picks up from where it was last week a little bit. If a man steal an ox or a sheep and kill it or sell it, he shall restore 5 oxen for ox and 4 sheep for sheep. If a thief be found breaking up and be smitten that he die, there shall no blood be shed for him. If the sun be risen up on him, then there shall be blood shed for him. For he should make full restitution. If he had nothing, then he shall be sold for his theft. If the theft be certainly found in his hand alive, whether it be ox or ass or sheep, he shall restore double. So this is going about telling, it already said, thou shalt not steal. Okay? But if it did happen, and God was anticipating that it was going to happen because he knew the people what they was going to do, so he gave them some rules. If it does get stolen, something of your property gets stolen, and there's some more we'll read here in a few minutes. But in this particular place, it's talking about animals, the farm animals that they have, and whatever restitution that they have. So if a guy steals an ox or a sheep and they kill it, wantonly kill it, okay, then, and they're found that that's going to be, that they did that, they didn't just steal it to have a flock for themselves, they stole it and either killed it or for whatever reason, then they're going to have, and they're found out, and the owner finds out who it is, they're going to have to pay restitution. And here it says 5 oxen for 1 ox. So if you steal 1 ox, you're going to have to repay it 5. If you steal a sheep, you're going to have to repay it 4-fold. What do you think the difference between the two? The number.
Because oxen was their livelihood. I mean, that's how they plowed.
That's right. It's like a farmer, you're taking away his tractor. He doesn't have any, he's got to get another tractor. Well, back then, the oxen was more important than sheep, because sheep didn't pull a plow. They provided the wool and the meat, but that was about it, and more lambs. So it was deemed not quite as important to restore that, because sheep multiply quickly and everything. Oxen, it takes them a little longer.
How long does
like
it
cows.
take for in utero for an ox? Do you know how
I'm
long?
not sure. It may be a real long time. I mean, it'd be like a cow, I would think. But let's see if it'll tell us.
Well, you're looking it up. I like that part there where it says that the Mosaic law did not send a person to jail because of theft. Instead, the theft was required to restore what he stole.
Right.
Plus an additional penalty. That might be good today.
It is.
Yeah.
Instead of stealing them in prison, make them get up there and work and make restitution.
Well, yeah. I mean, they've been there. They get provided for. They get medical. They get, everything. And I know their rights are getting taken away by not being in society, but still yet, that's not, that's more of a deterrent.
When you go at it like somebody that has swindled a bunch of money out of people, and then he spends it all. He goes to prison for a few years.
Mm-hmm.
Then he gets out, and he's swindling somebody else.
Yep, yep.
And the people that he swindled it from have an empty hand. I mean, they
That's
don't
right.
get nothing.
That's
No-
right.
No restitution.
Says it ranges, and this says cows. I mean, I've tried to go through oxen, didn't really say. 279, 287 days, so 3/4 of a year. So that's a pretty long time. I don't know about sheep.
I think sheep's about 5 months.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
About 5 months, I think.
Plus then it would have to get to a certain age before it,
Yeah, you can work it. Yeah. But, so that's another reason why 142 days, 142 to 152 days, 150, actually about 5 months, yeah. So that, it is more important, wise for that. And it says the principle would extend to taking any of man's plowing or cultivating implements. So it's not just the oxen per se, but anything where they get their livelihood. If somebody borrowed a plow, didn't bring it back, or broke it, or whatever, and we'll see a little bit more about that in just a few minutes. So it talks about, this whole chapter is basically about restitution in that. And then it says if a thief, not so much on that, but if a thief, if this one is found breaking up and be smitten that he die, there shall no blood be shed for him. So it's like if he's in it, what it explains, if that happens at night, and you know, if you kill him, it's okay. It's not saying it's okay, but you didn't know who was going on and what was happening, and you found out. But it says, if the sun be risen upon them, there shall be no blood shed for him. He shall make full restitution. So it's kind of like you're going out and investigating something at night, and you find this guy, and he attacks you because he thinks, and if you whack him and kill him, okay, it's understandable. That's what it's saying. If the theft be found certainly in his hand alive. So if he's got it there, a pelt, the oxen or the sheep or whatever, then he's going to have to restore it double. If he's caught in the act, you know, after the fact, he's killed it and gone on, then they are going to find it to restore it double. Now that's not less than the other one. It kind of sounds like it's less. It says a property right owner has the right to protect his property with force, but only with reasonable force. The assumption was that if it was daylight, the property owner had the ability to defend himself short of lethal force. But if not, you don't know what the guy has, you don't know where he is, anything like that. And it goes on to say, here, it didn't say it in this particular one, if they can't make restitution, then they shall be, well, it does say it there, they shall be sold for their theft. So they could be indentured, like we talked about last week. You can sell them, you know, to make that money up, to get it, and then they'll pay you the money. The judges will go through that particular, and we'll see that again here in a minute.
Does that fall within the, last week we studied that in the 7th year they were set free?
Yeah.
Is that?
I think it is. I think they're sold, and it's for a time period, like it was last time, sold for a certain crime, and it was limited. All those, the way I understood it from last week, all that's, if you sell yourself into servanthood or whatever, it's until that time. Now, I'm not sure if you didn't bring very much money and it wasn't enough to cover for whatever you stole. It may be a little longer, I don't know.
That was what I was
Yeah.
wondering.
I don't know. If you're worthless, I still think it's kind of like 7 years. I think they would still abide by that, and it may be even lesser amount if that amount of money brought in for it. if somebody didn't need somebody for 7 years and they only needed them for 2 years, he may work over here 2 years and then he go work another 2 years over here to pay for that. I don't know,
Yeah.
but it sounded like from last week's lesson. Okay, verses 5 through 8. If a man shall cause a field or vineyard to be eaten, and shall put in his beast, and shall feed in another man's field, of the best of his own of the field, and the best of his own vineyard, shall he make restitution. If fire break out and catch in thorns, so that the stacks of corn or the standing corn of the field be consumed therewith, he that kindled the fire shall surely make restitution. If a man shall deliver unto his neighbor money or stuff to keep, and it be stolen out of the man's house, if the thief be found, let him pay double. If the thief not be found, then the master of the house shall be brought unto the judges to see whether he hath put his hand unto his neighbor's goods. Okay? 3 or 4 different things going on there. One thing, you can't run your cattle in somebody else's property. That's what it's saying. Now, if they have an agreement, I'm sure that's fine. But if they get caught, then they have to pay a restitution for them, because they're eating up either some of the grapes or whatever the vineyard they have there. Typically it's grapes, but any crop that they have, that they would have to take care of that. And if for some reason you was out on somebody's field, looking for something or whatever, hunting, and you started a fire, and the fire caught the field on fire, and then you're going to have to pay restitution for that. If you give somebody something, if somebody needs to borrow it, and you give it to them, say, Brother Epperson needed to borrow my tractor, lawnmower. I said, okay. And somebody stole it from his house. If they found the thief, okay, no problem. The thief's going to have to pay double. But if they don't find it, Brother Epperson's going to have to get me another tractor, because he took it in full, saying, I'm going to be able to use it. And that's like anything else. That's the way that you would think the normal people would think. It's my responsibility. I borrowed it. Goes back to, it goes later on. This was actually before this. I think it was when Elijah, one of his people borrowed an axe head, was cutting, and the axe head flipped off and went in the water, and he was so upset because he'd borrowed that tool. He had no way to get it back. And of course, they come up and put the stick in there, and the iron axe head floated. Sure enough, there it is, and they got it. So
about responsibility.
It is. It's about taking responsibility for what you do, what you have. If I have it and I waste something, it's only detriment to me or my family, whatever. But if I loan you something and you're wasteful, and that goes back to today too. Sometimes somebody asks you for something and say, okay, I'll loan you this, and then you'll get your ratchet set that's half broken and half of them's missing, and okay, I'm ready. I can give that away. I don't care. You can have that. You're not having my good set. You're not having my Craftsman or my or my other. Something.
The moral is have a good set and have a really.
Yeah, that's right. Have 2 sets. Have a good one and a bad one. No, it comes back to who you trust, and hopefully, your good neighbors.
Loan out your bad one and
Yeah.
use it, and then get back a new one.
Get back a new one. Yeah. I think that may be a little different, but that anyway. Yeah. So it says then, of course, if the thief is not found, then the master of the house has to take care of that. So he's going to have to pay for that. And page 4, we start on 9, verse 9. For all manner of trespass, whether it be for an ox, an ass, a sheep, raiment, or for any matter of lost thing which another challengeth it to be his, the cause of both parties shall come before the judges, and whom the judges shall condemn, he shall pay double unto his neighbor. If a man deliver unto his neighbor an ass, an ox, or a sheep, or any beast to keep, and it die, or be hurt, or driven away, no man seeing it. Then shall an oath of the Lord be between them both, that he hath not put his hand unto his neighbor's goods, and the owner of it shall accept thereof, and he shall not make it good. And if it be stolen from him, he shall make restitution unto the owner thereof. If it be torn in pieces, then let him bring it for witness, and he shall not make good that for that which is torn. So it's just continuing on with the what?
I'm sorry, Letha said that your iPad fell, all they're getting a
Oh,
picture
yeah.
of is the.
Oh, well,
front
that's
page.
all right.
Yeah, sorry. Didn't
I
want to
touched
say
it.
that.
Thank you, Letha. Always forgot to say hi to Brother Bill. I better put it on right now.
Yeah, we can't forget to say that.
Hey, Brother Bill.
Hey, Brother Bill.
Yeah, I touched that iPad and it'll go. But that's okay. They just looking at the front, that jacket right there is all he's looking at. And it says, it goes back to the manner of trespassing for whatever it is, or for any manner of lost thing. So if you lose something and your neighbor comes up and he's got the same thing, and you look at it and it's got your initials on it, you kind of think that's yours. Take that guy to the judge, and say, hey, this is mine. And that's what it's saying, bring this before the judge, and then if the judge decides who it is, then they'll go back and if he took it, then they're going to have to pay double. This kind of brings about the thinking of the Solomon when they brought the child up, and one mother had laid on hers and the child died. They both delivered at approximately the same time, and the other one said, no, that's not her child, that's mine. The other one said, no, that's not mine. And Solomon said, give me a sword, we'll split it in two and give you both. And the real mother said, no, don't do that. So he knew right away who the real mother was. It kind of is like that. I mean, humans, that's to a real extent, but that's kind of what it's saying. But there's, here again, if they're caught, he shall pay double. All of this is precedented on they get caught. If they don't get caught, there's really, the only one's going to torture them, or not torture them, but the only one's going to see it's God, and he'll know what they've done. But if they continue to do that, which they typically do, they'll get caught sooner or later. It may not be with your stuff, it may be somebody else's stuff, but they'll get caught. And then later on, if he brings it up, hey, I that's my pelt, or that's my cloak. See, it's got my initials in it. Okay, then, it can bring it up again.
That was the judges, like, some of these, that Jethro, the information
Right.
he gave.
Right.
This was their job.
It was all those that was passed down that they went out. If there was some other thing that it was so close that they couldn't figure it out, then they brought it back to Moses. And if Moses didn't know about it, not know about it, but if he still had quandaries, he would take it to God. And I'm sure there were some things like that came up. But here's this last one is, if something be stolen and if it be torn up, and this is kind of talking like an animal skin or something like that, or it could be something else. If you bring it forth and say, here, then it's okay. A wild animal got after this ox or whatever, and it was beyond my control. I was taking care of it. He was in my barn. He got out, and a wolf got it, or a bear, tore it up. Here it is. And it said, okay, that's all right. So it's trying to give them a little bit of guidelines on these things, and as they go, they will, I think, catch what, but it's like anything else. We're human. This judge over here may do a little bit different than this judge over here. And you know, that word travels, so I'm sure they had some issues, and they had to take some of them before the Supreme Court, which is Moses, you know, and see what he had to say. Verse 14, and if a man borrow aught of his neighbor, and it be hurt or die, the owner thereof being not with it, he shall surely make it good. But if the owner thereof be with it, he shall not make it good. If it be an hired thing, it came for his hire. Here again, it's talking about the responsibility and of restitution for that. Said the assumption was that if the owner was the animal or the tool, as it was used by another, the owner was responsible for the care and use of the object while it's in his presence. If the owner wasn't present, the borrower was responsible. So if you're sitting there with both of you working, and we're both chopping wood, and the guy hits every third lick, he hits the wood handle and doesn't hit the blade, you say, let me have my axe back. You're going to break my axe. That's on you, because you know that's not the way it's supposed to be done. So we have to kind of use a little bit of responsibility in our own views. Verse 16, 17, and if a man entice a maid that is not betrothed and lie with her, he shall surely endow her to be his wife. If her father utterly refuse to give her unto him, he shall pay money according to the dowry of virgins. So what this is in the virgin is the betula, Hebrew word betula, an unmarried girl who was always presumed to be a virgin. And entice means over-persuade with fair words, which make fools vain. So what he's trying to do, if somebody talked him into it, they sweet-talked him into it. We talked about last time about a bride and the dowry of it, and it was usually for a wedding. I mean, a virgin. It was a young girl for a virgin, for a wedding. Here he's trying to say that if it is, and it's saying it's against sex outside of marriage, is what this is trying to say. So if he wants to marry her, okay. But if the father don't like it, if he refuses, then the guy has to pay money. So one way or another, he's taking care, getting a bride dowry. Okay, it's kind of, and it is protecting the girl still yet, because the father's not going to, I mean, it happens. He wasn't protecting her when it happened, but the father still is in charge of all this.
If he didn't think he would be a fit husband, then he can refuse to live.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. And it went all into that last week too. And there's a lot more. Here's an illustration that I thought was kind of interesting. The table, guy had an antique store and had a table, and the table was worth $600, but was marked down to $300. A man tried to bargain her down to $200, and she did not. Not only did she refuse, but she realized the true value of the table and upped the price to the $600. Okay, so even when he had first offered $300, now he's not. So the man finally bought the table for $600 and certainly treated it like a $600 table. And that's the way we get sometimes. A lot of things. I know we were cleaning out my Aunt Margie's house this summer, and me and Sean was just crazy. We were selling stuff for $1 a piece. You know, whatever you pick up, I don't care, it's $1. He was wanting to get rid of it. And some of the stuff we looked up last one, man, that was worth $50 or whatever. And it's like, yeah, but it was about 95 degrees out there, and we was tired of working on this, and he said it was okay. So, and it's one of those things that we have to go back and forth with a little bit.
Well, today the world doesn't put much emphasis on purity.
No.
Okay.
No.
And we, the old saying, it feels good, do it, and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And people, sell themselves short.
Right.
okay?
Well, it's even like you were saying earlier about trucks. Last year or a little bit before, you wouldn't dare pay manufacturer suggested retail price. You're gonna be able to knock them down some. You'd be lucky if you pay manufactured retail price now, because most of them go for a premium. I was telling Brother Epperson Monday, I think, that I had to take the car in for an oil change, and I told Darla I'd taken it down there first and then had a ride back, and then we went to go pick it up. I said, man, that parking lot only had about half a dozen new cars in it. Well, when we come back, I looked at it again. I said, well, yeah, there's half a dozen cars, but those are all used. I said, they moved them over. And I asked the guy, and he said, yeah, they're, said, most time they're already bought before they even hit the pavement. And I just was amazed that, people are paying plus dollar, manufacturer plus 100, 200,000, however much they want the car or vehicle. That's just crazy.
When I was having to help my daughter find a car,
Mm-hmm.
we looked from the internet in 2 days and found nothing.
Yeah.
And the cheapest you could find was like $6,000 or $7,000. Under that, you can tow it off.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, and just by God's grace, because I prayed a lot about this, before I went there, I had a friend of hers that had the car that wanted to sell for $3,000.
Mm-hmm.
And by God's grace, again, that car was in good shape. And let me tell you what, we didn't hesitate to snatch it up either.
Yep.
Because $8,000 for a car that's already 8, 9 years old.
Sure. Sure.
I was shocked.
Don't you think we're gonna see a lot of things
Mhm.
nowadays
Yeah.
that we would have never, ever
Yeah.
imagined in our,
Oh, it's just starting. I mean, people, I just watched and they, at the news, they said, well, year over year, interest is 7% higher. I mean, the inflation 7% more. It's like, yeah, that's probably the low end of the stick. Depends on where you're at. I was, who was I talking to? Oh, my friend in Colorado. I was talking to him. He called me the other day, the guy I worked with, and he lives up in Colorado now. And I said, yeah, he's asked me, he's been retired for a little longer than I have. And he asked something, and I said, yeah, these prices are kind of getting out of whack. And I said, yeah, I tell you, price jumped the other day from $265 to $277. And he just started laughing. He said, oh, I wish we could get $277. Up here in Colorado, I don't know how much. He never did tell me how much it was, but I know out in California and places there, it's like $450. They show it on the news, $450, $460.
Well, Dad
So-
went to go get his pills filled,
Mm-hmm.
and they said they can't get them filled until February.
Yeah, they're backlogged.
On
Yeah.
this,
They're backlogged on this blood pressure medicine.
Blood pressure medicine.
Yeah.
He could get like a lesser amount and take 2 of those, they have them, but the milligram that he needed then. So I think we're gonna see a lot more stuff.
Yeah, it's people. It's one of the blogs or one of the emails I get's a combination of a bunch of prophecy blogs, and that's what they said, that it's just going to get worse and worse. That it's getting there to where, like I said last week, that some of the Australia is one of the leading companies right now, leading countries, that's pushing for the passport. If you don't have it, you're not going to be able to get anything from the government at all. And then they're pushing the stores to say, don't accept anybody that's coming out there. If they're trying to buy it and they don't have a passport,
Yeah, they don't show that they've had the shot
Yeah.
or whatever.
that they're not going to get it. And it's like, well, I can see that's heading our way. It's
Well,
going to be a
over the
while,
years,
but
when you
may
study
not be that long.
Revelation and you study the freedoms that we've had, it's almost looked like it's almost impossible
Mhm.
for something like that to happen.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But we're on the doorstep of all that stuff.
Well,
right
they're-
now. All these things are setting it up.
yes.
Now people are, you need another. I was listening to one doctor, and he said after a while, you don't need a booster after booster after booster after booster,
Mhm.
Not if it works.
because after a while, your
Immune system's
your
up.
what do you call it? Your own.
Yeah, your immune
Your
system's good.
antibodies.
That's why my allergies is. I get an allergy shot every month, and when I first started, he told me after about 5 years, you ain't gonna need nothing else, because your body will be reacted to it. And I can kind of tell that now, that I can get those shots and it don't change me that much. It helps clear me up for a little, but I'm not I'm not anything like I used to be, I'll say it that way. Because my sister told me I had when I was little, 15, 16, whatever, I had all the snot in the world. I mean, I had allergies everywhere, just running. So, because I was all the time blowing my nose. Yeah, that's right.
You really wanted to know that, did you?
All right. Let's get on. Verse 18. Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. Whosoever lieth with the beast shall surely be put to death. He that sacrificeth unto any god, save unto the Lord only, he shall be utterly destroyed. So we hit 3 different topics here in one little area. The King James Version translates sorceress as witch. Okay, the Hebrew word is actually an enchantress or a sorceress, something like that, and it wasn't necessarily just a woman. It was a man or a woman. So, one of the things that I thought was interesting, and I knew that this was part of it, says, taking this noun sorceress, the verb is to use incantations, magic, sorcery, or the art of witchcraft. Our English witch is alleged to have come from to wit, i.e., to know, in the adjectival wittig or wittich, contracted to witch. Contracted, there you go. The Greeks rendered our word by pharmakos, and I knew that. The Greek word for witch is pharmakos. But look after that, poisoners. I didn't know pharmakos meant poisoners, but that's what it means. Since sorcerers dealt in drugs and pharmaceutical potions. So to me, that makes pretty much sense. That's what it is. It says, many of the Israelites had no doubt learned these curious arts from their long residence with the Egyptians. Like I said, there's over 400 plus years that they were there. So they attach themselves to that, and that we find such arts in repute among them, and various practices of this kind prevailed through all of the Jewish history. So that kind of brought up this capital offense. It says, in all cases, it's punished with death.
Well, aren't you glad you didn't live under the law?
That's right. That's right. And then it goes on down there a little bit. Witchcraft is equally condemned in the New Testament. And it goes to Acts 13 and 10. But it says, in spite of these practices of the church in the Middle Ages, there is no hint in the New Testament that mediums or witches should be put to death. Just like you said, it was under the law. And so, and then we'll jump right on the next one. Whoever lies with an animal shall surely be put to death. Bestiality was practiced in the ancient world, and here God commanded specifically, against it. And it talks about the Canaanites was not only an obvious perversion, but it figured so often in the Canaanite cycle, tales of Baal, that it probably had a religious significance for the Canaanites. I didn't know this. It says it's surprising to some that bestiality is legal in some European countries or nations, and subcultures practice it and promote it. Yet there should be no surprise if God's standard is rejected in one area of sexual morality, then the standards are often left up to the individual to decide. It's Christian civilization and morality that has discouraged and condemned all the different fornication, adultery, pedophilia, polygamy, prostitution, homosexuality, gender confusion, and the like. As Christians, civilization and morality are increasingly mocked and rejected, It's no surprise that all these practices are increasingly practiced, supported, and encouraged. And we see that today. We see it. In the last verse 21, thou shalt not vex a stranger, nor oppress him, for ye were strangers in the land of Egypt. And it goes back and basically is repeating to them, yeah, they came in to Egypt and they were a stranger. The Egyptians at the time took them in. I mean, and what I'm saying there, they were Joseph's, they were next to the second in line in Egypt, and they took them in. Now, over the time period, they forgot that and they became slaves, but it says that they should not, any stranger you meet, you need to meet them kind of on a neutral ground. Not think that they're going to rob you or anything like that. But in today's society, it's kind of hard, isn't it? Used to, you'd stop and pick up hitchhikers and things like that. You don't hear that much anymore. I mean, if you do, you're taking your life in your hands almost. (22 through 24). Ye shall not afflict any widow or fatherless child. If thou afflict them in any wise, and they cry at all unto me, I will surely hear their cry, and my wrath shall wax hot, and I will kill you with a sword, and your wives shall be widows, and your children fatherless. Tells us also that we need, in the New Testament, we need to look after who? The widows and the orphans. God has a special place for them in his heart, because they are helpless. I mean, in the society that they were then, there was not much any place they could go and do anything or provide for themselves. That's the way it was. So God had to protect them and take care of them, and that's why he said you shouldn't afflict them. You shouldn't put them under any particular duress or anything like that. If they were in a house and the guy died, got killed, and you should work something out with them. Maybe they could be your slaves, and I'm not saying that's a good thing, but back then that's what they're saying. But don't afflict them.
And also when you could almost say when they use that, they mean the true
Right.
widows
Right.
and orphans.
Right.
I thought about that where it says welcome strangers, don't miss. It's just like we've got illegals coming in now. Okay.
Right.
Okay. We have laws, but at the same time, it does not give us the right to mistreat them.
Oh, no.
Or in essence, and again, there was no. Today, people are constantly committing welfare fraud and all this kind of stuff. And young people are not getting married anymore. Women are having tremendous amount of children. Well, where's their father? He's not there.
Right.
And,
Right. It's become a way of life for a lot of people, and it doesn't get any better for them that way. So
generation after generation.
Now we continue on in 25 through 27, talking about money. If thou lend money to any of my people that is poor by thee, thou shalt not be to him as a usurer. Neither shalt thou lay upon him usury. If thou at all take thy neighbor's raiment to pledge, thou shalt deliver it unto him by that the sun goeth down. For that is his covering only. It is his raiment for his skin, wherein shall he sleep. And it shall come to pass, when he crieth unto me, that I will hear, for I am gracious. Here it's talking about loaning people things. Here in particular money. But to go back, as we was talking earlier, we need to learn to lend to people what they want. Our neighbor needs to borrow something. Okay, if they haven't abused it before, they'll probably do okay with it. But here in particular, it's the poor, because the poor really they don't have a lot anyway, and we see that today in our society. The poor that do work, they live paycheck to paycheck, and a lot of people, they don't have to be poor to do that, but they're having to go out and get a loan because something unexpected comes up and they have to pay a bill, and they go to one of these payday loans or whatever, and the interest is 25% or some crazy amount. That's what it's talking about. The usurer or the usury is interest. And to me, this is basically saying, don't be a loan shark. Okay? Today, you can loan people money, and you can charge a reasonable interest to somebody if you want to. That's not, I don't feel like God's going to get you for that, but the poor need help. But Jesus told us also, you shall always have the poor. When you know, the disciple got upset about was it frankincense or the myrrh, one of those expensive perfumes, and give it to the poor. Well, he said, you're always going to have the poor. You're not going to solve that problem. I'm sorry. There's always. We talked about that a little bit last week. Even in the Israelites, as they came out of Egypt, you had some that's really, really poor. And then you had some that was not better well off. Either they're better salesmen on themselves to gather as they went to their Egyptian friends or whatever. Yeah.
Had a better line.
They had a better line or something. They anyway. And here in the last part it says, even if a guy borrows a cloak, you need to give it back to him by the end of the day. We see, and we don't understand that today because most of us have a half a dozen coats or more in the house, and if we miss one, so what? But here, that's all they had. And if he didn't have that coat, he gets cold at night. That may be the difference between life and death for him if he doesn't have that covering. So that's what he's saying. This poor guy, he doesn't have near as much as anybody else. He may not have a couple of changes of raiment, of clothes.
I like that word said, it may mention that probably there had to, it was collateral, so this was a loan.
That's right. It was a loan for some reason. And you can do that. You can make a collateral. If somebody needs to borrow something, okay, I'll take it. But you need to give it back to it too right away. And the last part here, 28 through 31, was on gods. And that was the first commandment, first to the second commandment. But here it says, thou shalt not revile the gods, nor curse the ruler of thy people. Thou shalt not delay to offer the first of the ripe fruits and of thy liquors. The firstborn of thy sons shalt thou give unto me. Likewise shalt thou do with thine oxen and with the sheep. 7 days it shall be with his dam, and on the 8th day it shall give it to me. And ye shall be holy men unto me, neither shall ye eat any flesh that is torn of the beasts in the field. Ye shall cast it to the dogs. So the first part of it is the don't revile any of the other gods, nor curse the ruler of thy people. When I saw that curse the ruler of thy people, it goes back to Paul, when in my remembering of Paul, when he was talking about, and Jesus too, talking and saying, when they brought accusations up against him, and he was talking to the high priest, and they slapped him in the face, both Paul and Jesus, and they, well, I didn't know he's high priest, sorry, That goes back to this rule. Don't curse the ruler of thy people. It says the most basic measure of holiness is what we say. Period. God cares how we talk about him and those in rightful authority over us. We need to be careful. Our words mean a lot. People are listening all the time to what we talk and what we say. Here it goes down and also says that curse a ruler of your people suggests the Elohim, the word that they use there in Hebrew, refers to Israel's legal judges also. So that could be a very, here again, somebody did me wrong, that judge, he just wasn't on my case, you know, he didn't rule for me. It says don't be doing that. God put these people into place. And I'm sure it just wasn't any random draw of a hat who was the judges. Like you said, Moses chose people whom he trusted. It may have been the heads of the tribes back then, you know, whoever that was, and then each one of the tribes chose people that he had underneath him. It's, you know, it was a real, I think it was a real, it wasn't just a popularity contest, I guess is what I'm saying.
Verse 31.
Uh-huh.
Did you read that? Maybe I missed it.
Yeah. And ye shall be holy men unto me, neither shall ye eat any flesh that is torn of the beasts in the field, ye shall cast it to the dogs.
Okay, so in this instance, is the reasoning because of the germs and things from an animal that has torn into it?
Right. Let's go and we don't really have this law yet because it hadn't got to us. But on the beasts, what's clean and what's, well, we do too. That's all the batch from Noah. So what was clean and what was unclean, that was set back in even before Noah's days, but it was set out in Noah. So we know what was clean and what was unclean. Okay, most of the time we're talking about what was torn up is what? A lamb, a bear, something that you eat, cow, goat, sheep, right? Most of the time, maybe not all the time, but that's what we would eat. What usually tears it up? A bear, a lion, yeah, something like that. An unclean animal. So if an unclean animal has tore it up, it's not going to be clean anymore. So don't eat it. In addition to what you're saying, because it does. It's two or three things that's happened here. Because now its blood has been spilt on the ground. Blood's holy. Blood's on the ground. Now it's not holy. That's the same thing. We kind of referred back that last week when Jesus was opened up and his blood fell on the ground. He made himself unholy because of that. He made himself the ultimate sacrifice. That, you know, he was hung on a tree. They're supposed to be reviled forever because they were hung on a tree. So that's kind of where this is coming from.
And the animals were not drained.
Yeah, the animals weren't drained.
Like
I mean,
if
at that
you
one,
had a goat or something,
right?
You hung it, you let all the blood drain.
That's
from
exactly
it.
right. Even today,
Yeah.
you know, if a deer gets hit on the side of the road, okay, how long has it been there? You know, okay, let's get that baby in. But you don't let it set up. If it sets up, the blood coagulates and it's no good. Even Dan, when when his pig died over there, we took him, his first pig that he had, we took him over to Skytook, and he was just one that he got from Darla's dad on the farm, one of their friends, and he had some of the genes, I guess, that wouldn't make a good pig, but probably the other 10 pigs laying on him probably didn't help. But because they put them all in the back of the deal and just crammed the door shut because they had so many. The good pigs were up front. They had all the pins. And then the last, anyway, poor pig was on the ground, and when he come, you know, all the others jumping out and going, the others like, oh, he's there dying, and he did. He passed on, and it's like, okay, you know, do you want the meat from that? No. And of course Daniel's bawling, you know, because it's his first pig. And it's like, no, you, and the, oh, I did it again. Sorry guys, I keep touching the monitor. He said no, the meat wouldn't be good anyway because it stressed it so much, you know, as being under that load or whatever caused it to so. Okay, maybe I'll leave it alone for the rest of the service. We're over. I appreciate everybody coming out tonight, and we'll. It was not. I'll be here next week. Yeah, that's right. I figured that out. Okay. I had a meeting, and I couldn't remember if it was on Wednesday night or Thursday night. So. All right.
Hi, Brother Bill.
Yeah.
We love you, Brother Bill.
I left it on there for about the whole thing, so he should have seen it.
Yeah.